Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Colin. Can I first of all start off by telling you what I'm not going to do? I promise you I'm not going to give you any facts and figures and any graph showing things going like that or things going like that and how disastrous the world is. I'm not going to give you, I'm afraid, any insights into what the Efficiency and Reform Group within the Cabinet Office is doing or how it's planning to carry out its work. Although I work in the Efficiency and Reform Group within the Cabinet Office, that is still obviously under debate, evolution, and it's something I'm not at liberty to talk about in a forum such as this. And the third disappointment for you is I'm not going to tell you how much fun it was to run a nuclear submarine around the world in the height of the Cold War in the late 80s, because I'd have to shoot you all afterwards. But it was great fun. So what am I going to talk about? I'd like to talk about an initiative that started off in the Office of Government Commerce, where I have been working for the last 3 to 4 years before it shifted into the Cabinet Office as part of machinery of government. And it's an initiative called Starting Gate, which is around how do we ensure that good ideas that emerge from ministers, senior civil servants or whatever, how do you ensure that they turn from a good idea into a successful project that actually delivers? Now, the basis of this is that one of the most fascinating aspects of my work in the OGC and continuing in ERG is that I and my colleagues, we spend a lot of our time reviewing major projects within central government. And I'd like to just very, very briefly run through 3 things we do. We have a system called the Major Projects Portfolio, whereby that's the 40 most significant projects in the whole of central government, ranging from how do you build replacement nuclear submarines, such as the strategic deterrent, to how do you prepare for the pandemic flu, how do you bring about changes within the welfare system. Massive, massive change projects, and we monitor and get returns from these 40 selected projects that are key to government policy, and we watch the trends. The second thing we do is we do individual reviews. Some of you may have heard of the gateway system, and there are other kinds of assurance reviews, and it's a privilege. I can tell you this, it's a very enjoyable privilege to be able to go into a major project program, interview people from ministers, permanent secretaries, all the way down to the people who are delivering the services at the front line, and within a week you get a picture of how a project or program is faring up, and you can learn an awful lot about it. And the third element is we carried out this summer an absolutely brand new type of review across 30-odd major projects to work out where we could get efficiencies and savings as part of how to reduce the financial deficit. Now, in all those 3 elements of reviews, the same lesson emerged, that too many projects are failing or are tending to fail because the deliverability of the policy has not been thought through. And if it has been thought through, what you find is projects are then hamstrung by a final date they will deliver by, with a budget that's been plucked out of the air, to outcomes that haven't been thought through, and they've been set in concrete. And one of the most depressing things about being a reviewer is finding a project where people say, oh yeah, well we know we can't deliver it to time, but we've been told we must do it. And you think, oh my God, this is reminiscent of bashing your head against the brick wall and continuing to do so in the hope that the bleeding will stop, which of course it doesn't. So one of the things we have seen time and time again is that projects, if they are going to fail, if you look into it and analyze it, were they set up properly? And at that policy stage, was there any real check done as to whether the aims and aspirations were checked out for being deliverable, sensible? And has the project or program been set up in a sensible way? Because one of the other lessons that comes out of all those reviews that we do is that once you set up a project and it's not well set up, you're on the back foot, and trying to recover it is well nigh impossible. Some of you will have seen in my biography, I was a program director for a thing called NOMS, National Offender Management Service, in the Home Office. I have the scars on my back. I won't embarrass you by stripping off my clothes and showing you, but I can assure you that was a program where the jump from policy into an active program would have benefited hugely from what I'm about to describe. And one of the jobs as a program director to try and pull it together once it had fragmented and gone off in different directions was incredibly difficult. So this is what Starting Gate is all about. It is trying to get at an embryonic project before it goes too far. It's an assurance review of the policy and the strategy underpinning what will become the delivery programme. And it should take place before, ideally, any formal announcement is made. Now, that's an ideal, because everyone loves to make announcements. We've got a wacko new idea. We're going to do this, do this. But ideally, you want to have some kind of starting gate or an assurance review to check out that what you're about to embark on is actually deliverable. And the idea is that this starting gate review can be repeated as many times as you like, or as appropriate. Now, the way we've applied this within the OGC as was, it's to new high-risk policies that would be delivered through formal change projects or programs. And at the moment, it applies very much to central governments and central government departments. But there is absolutely no reason why the concept could not be applied to any form of project or program within the public sector, local government, or indeed in the private sector. Its actual purpose is to provide an independent assessment. And I stress the word independent. Departments, central government departments, often, it's only quite understandable, they get completely immersed in their agenda and what they want to achieve and the outcomes for that particular department. Having an independent, external group of people coming in and saying, well, why actually are you doing it this way? What is it you're actually trying to achieve? And the earlier speaker referred to the definition of outputs at the contract stage. I would say that's far too late. I'd be saying, have you defined your outputs way back at when you set the project and program up in the first instance? So the aim is to have an independent assessment, and before you get into the actual implementation, and it's about the key delivery issues and risks. Has the policy sponsor thought through actually how deliverable will this actually be? And what will be the challenges on transitioning from policy to implementation? And obviously the aim of all this, the aim of what everybody wants in all this, is that major projects and programs succeed. Our track record across central government of major projects and programs that don't deliver to time, don't deliver to cost, don't deliver to the quality that's required is not that particularly good. And this is one of the key things that we've seen from the evidence, and we are now very much putting into practice, that if you can get to projects early, if you can get to them before they start off, then you have a much greater chance of success at the end of the day. So how does it work? Well, it takes place before any sort of OGC traditional gateway review, and it is conducted in a confidential environment, and it is very much tailored to the individual policy, the department, or the setting in which the prospective project or program may be emerging. We have a specific pool of accredited reviewers who have gone through specific training relating to this kind of review, because there are quite different questions that you might wish to be asking as a reviewer of a policy individual or a policy official than you would if your program was down at the sort of about to implement, about to go into major delivery. And it's normally a 3 to 4 day process, compiling a great number of interviews, discussion, reading of documentation, and then results in a written and oral report. There is one or two quite significant differences from the more traditional gateway reviews that, as I say, some of you may have heard about and taken part in. There's no expectation here of masses of supporting evidence or documentation like business cases or anything like that. This is much more about what is the policy, what are you trying to achieve, have you thought through the issues of how you turn this into a deliverable project and program. And we make it a fundamental point that there's no assumptions about the level of maturity of thinking. This is not a tick box exercise. This is not to say you should have thought of this, you should have thought of that, you should have thought of that. Now, there are types of reviews where that kind of approach is appropriate. And you might want to say to an established project, well, where is your risk register? Where is your issues log? Where is evidence of your program milestones, etc., etc.? Starting Gate is very, very different. It's much more flexible. It's much more open. And there is no automatic assessment of delivery confidence which within central government is the standard way we assess the deliverability of a project or programme once it's up and running. Starting gate, you haven't even started yet. It is what it says, a gate at the very start. As I mentioned, we have an accredited pool of reviewers. Before the present government came in, we had a mixture both of civil servants and external consultants. Under the current regime, we're moving much more now to only civil service reviewers. And I can assure you that if you are in the civil service and you are ever have the chance to take part in this kind of activity, I would thoroughly recommend it. I have learnt so much from being a reviewer and going into departments across the whole range of government and reviewing projects. And everyone is different, and I personally always learn something new from every single review that I undertake. So I would urge anyone who's got the opportunity to get involved.